Hello everyone, it's Rachel at From Moments to Milestones, and we have a new card class. Today, this is the Celebrate Birthday, featuring some Spellbinders dies, shaker domes, as well as a stamp from Simon Hurley. And we're going to do It's Party Time, Celebrate, and Sending Birthday Hugs. So these are the cards. If you get a kit, like that, you've got 3 separate kits in the back. This time your shaker domes are separate, but they're still part of the kit. You get written instructions with a picture of each card and a list of all the supplies we used in the back to create a kit. So we will jump in. You are going to need some distress inks or inks of any color, really. These this isn't, all the color comes from whatever you choose. So the 3 colors I used were Stormy Sky, Chip Sapphire, and Fossilized Amber. But you could certainly go with pinks or greens, whatever you want to do. I thought those colors look good with the gold, but it's really up to you. You could do each one a separate color palette, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with what I did, just so if that's what you want to do, you can. We're going to start with this one. It's Party Time. And these are shaker domes from Spellbinders. They have different styles that match their different dies. Today we're using the Essential Arches. And you can certainly use them to make shakers. On this one we're kind of doing like I don't know what you would want to call it. Not really a shadow box, but it's thick, but it's protected, so the bulk is in there. So that's our first card. So let's get out our kit, and our first step is going to be 2 watercolors. So you're gonna need your inks, whatever you choose. Now today I'm going to use those same 3 colors, but I'm going to use the re-inkers to use as like a watercolor. So you could certainly smush this down on a surface and use that to watercolor with if you don't have the reinkers. I'm going to use that because they get a little bit more concentrated color if you want it. So let's get our kit out, and we're going to start with this so it has some time to dry, and put everything else to the side. Alright, I have this is just a dry erase board I found at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use this as my palette. So I'll start with the yellow. I don't need very much. I'm just going to tap it on there. And then you may want a spray bottle. You could use a regular paintbrush and have a cup of water. This is a water, so it's got water in it. So that's what I'm going to use. And I am going to spray it a little. Alright, so I'm just going to go in and paint I'm going to get the area wet first and then pick up the paint, and then it'll be darker. So you can see I got a lot of color there. If you don't want very much color, then you definitely don't want to pick up from that real concentrated area. Just pull it into the water and it'll take it back a little. I'm just going to go in and where it's a little bit darker and just tap, add some variation of color. And I do have a paper towel here if I want a dry brush. Sometimes it's easier to grab more concentrated color with a dry brush. There we go. I got to match the intensity of that first one, so. Now, if you get too much color, I think this one's a little too dark for me. I'm going to clean off my brush and I'm going to get the area wet and then pick some of that color up with my paper towel. It's a nice thing about distress. All right, I'm going to call that good, and then we're going to move on to the candles. So I've got some Stormy Sky. Oh, and I just got a big drop on my, which is fine. We're going to use that color anyway, but let's get that out of the way while we do that. So we got Stormy Sky and Chip Sapphire. So I'm just going to put a dot of each on my little palette here. Squirt with water. And then this is Stormy Sky, and over these I'm just going to brush in some color. So all those that have stripes, and it's however you want to do it. All right. So I'm just adding some shadows, putting darker color on the one side. This is just a time to relax and color if it's something you enjoy. If it's not, you can just color. They don't have to be, you can just put the color down and the embossing will shine. So. See. Now when you're going to do like this one, I'm going to do this with the zigzags in a very light blue. And then I'm going to take, excuse me, I'm going to take that dark blue and color in the zigzags, but I'm going to let it dry before I do that. Otherwise the colors will just mix together. So I'm going to go lay those down. And let's see, the polka dots. So I'm going to use this dark blue, but I'm really going to water it down. And I'm going to go in first, and then I'll go back same way with a dark blue on the polka dots. There's one more. And let's see, the curly ones are dark blue as well, but I'm going to go a little darker. right, so I'm gonna take this. You can just let it dry. You can use a paper towel. I'm just gonna put a heat tool over it, make sure that's dry, and then I'm gonna go in and add my different darker accents. All right, so that's good. So I'm going to make sure I have a nice dry brush. This where if you don't like a watercolor brush, no. And then I'm going to pick up that darker blue, really concentrated, and just go in and get the polka dots. All right, and then I also want to do the lines on the zigzags in this dark blue. And you could certainly use colored pencils here, or, you know, alcohol markers, whatever you want to color. But it is stamped on watercolor paper, so it's made to take the water if that's how you choose to go. All right, so there's all the stripes. Let's see, I think I also did the stripes on the little Kirby candle stripes, so I'm going to go in and put those in as well. This one here. And watercolor is one of my favorite ways to color. It's so forgiving. So I'm not always in the lines. There are places here where there's white, and that's okay. That's the beauty of it. All right, so I think what we have left, I'm going to add some detail to these stripes, which is the darker blue, or the lighter blue, but I'm going to use a darker version of it. Oh, there's a little bit of it right there. And right here. All right, I think the only thing I'm going to do is add some dark on this. All right, I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to keep this color palette because we have something else to paint later on. So I'm just going to set that to the side, and we're going to let that dry. We'll work on the rest of our card. So let's see. We are going to take these 3 arches, and we're going to layer them on top of each other, largest to smallest, but we're going to use foam. So let's put foam on the back. All right, so we've got foam on the tag, and I'm going to put it on the next size centered. And this one's a little tricky because there's nothing in the center, so I'm actually just going to put the foam right around the inside of that curve. And when you take off the backing, you get that foam to curve. All right, so then I'm going to layer this one on top of there. Okay. And then you have some twine here. We're going to tie a bow. On my card, I double. We had some trouble in class, so probably going to suggest you skip this. I wanted a double layer, but it does leave you with a small piece to tie. So if you don't have a bow maker or something like that and you're not great with it, then I would suggest just tying a single bow with your cord. And making it the size you want. And then we're just going to glue it right on there, and I'll cut the tails. What I originally did was cut it in half, and then so I had 2 strands, so it's not really necessary. I'm going to get a glue dot to stick that on with. I'm just going to put it right over the hole and then stick my bow on there. And cut the tails. I'm going to leave them a little bit longer. All right. I think our panel should be good and dry. Yes, it feels dry. All right, so we're going to use that panel as a guide. And I notice I have this little empty spot because of that. I'm going to throw some foam in there. Just probably isn't really necessary, but I'm going to anyway. All right, so get that line back up where it's supposed to be, and then it just goes in the center. So just center it inside that arch. And now we are going to, you're going to need to pull one of those. They're kind of loose in your kit, and you should have 2. So we're going to pull one of them out. And I'm going to grab some double-sided adhesive. I have some red line here. I'm going to use both this strong double-sided adhesive and wet glue, but I wouldn't suggest just wet glue because you're going to have to wait for it to dry before you can move on. So this kind of gives you both. All right, so I'm removing all the backing from this red line adhesive. And then just as a backup, I'm going to add just a little bit of wet glue on top as well. So this is the top of our shaker dome. And I'm just going to lay it down, and then I'm going to put this, be a nice snug fit right on top, and give it a good press all the way around. Okay, so now you have that panel with your shaker dome on. And then you can go ahead and put on this gold frame. So I'm going to put some adhesive on. You could put adhesive just on the outside of your frame, on the outside here. But I'm just going to, just like so. It goes right around. All right, so now what we're going to do, I want to make sure these stay. I might actually pin them down with a little bit of, not this glue, it's too big of a, let's put a little dot there, and a little dot there. That's not necessary, but I have my tails a little bit longer if you want to make sure it stays in place. I need a little bit more. And then I'm going to use that to hold it down while it dries. While that's drying, I'm going to flip this over and add adhesive. You can add wet glue, score tape, whatever you want. You want to make sure you get some on that plastic as well. Alright, so that is ready to go, and we're just going to line that up and stick it down. Alright, your little Shadow Box Party Time card is complete. Okay, our next card is the shaker. This time we're going to use the shaker dome to make a shaker. Sending birthday hugs. So you'll need the other dome. And then I'm going to go ahead and dump my contents out. And let's start by, you need to find that arch, and we are going to watercolor this. You can do it so it completely matches. You could grab a whole nother color palette if you want. I'm going to stick with what I had here. So I've got some water. I'm going to get my candles wet and then go in and pick up some color. Put it in. And then I can drop in more intense color down here at the bottom if I want. Kind of let that work its way up. And all I did was clean out my brush. So I'm just adding water to blend that out. Okay. So clean out my brush. I'm going to lay down some water. Pick up some color, add it in, and then I'm going to pick up intense color and drop it in. Clean out my brush, just get water and blend that out. Alright, so the candle, the top of the candle's done. Now let's, and you can copy exactly what you did before, go with a completely different palette. It's up to you. I think we'll call that good. And I am done with the watercoloring, so I'll just clean that up. Let that dry a little bit. And we'll move on. So we've got our shaker bits. And actually, I think I need that piece to move on. So let's dry it up a little bit. I just don't want to get fingerprints everywhere. All right. So that's good and dry. So you should have, this is your card base. And I'm going to wash up my hands real quick because I'm afraid I'm going to get ink on my cream cardstock. All right. So you should have this panel that is the same size as the panel with the sentiment. Okay. So you're going to stack those on top of each other. We're not gluing it down. We're just going to use it as a placeholder. Okay. And then this arch should fit right inside. And we're going to glue this arch to that back panel. So put some glue on. I've got that right where I want it. Or I did. Okay. You just want it to match up. And then I'm going to slide that Should fit in just like a puzzle piece. And then you can take that off. See, I still got a blue fingerprint on there. I knew I was going to do that. All right, so that's on there. Get my sand eraser real quick and see if I can get that off. And I got most of it off. Okay. So you got your panel on there, and let's go ahead. We're going to put our dome inside this panel, just like we did before. So some red line or score tape, whatever you want to use. And then I'm going to use wet adhesive as well. So removing the backing from your double-sided, whatever adhesive you use. And I'm going to add a little bit of wet glue like I did before. Plus it'll give you some wiggle room in case you don't get it lined. It should fit perfect, but it helps. So we'll lay that down in front of us. And just place that on top. Alright, so that is ready to go. And now you have your little shaker bits. So probably the easiest way to do this, we're going to open them up. And there's a little sticky thing at top. I'm just going to take this right where it's folded and cut across. And then you can do two things. You can just pour them out onto this little candle arch and keep them inside there. Or you can dump them, flip this over, dump them inside, and then flip this over and lay it down. It's entirely up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. You can probably see what you're doing best this way. So you're gonna get all those out. All right. And then I have a few stray stars. I'm just going to put them in there if I can. And you just want to keep them inside the arch. And there's so much room in here, you don't even really need to spread them out. They'll have plenty of room to move around. And so now I'm going to go in. I'm going to use a good amount of wet glue. You could use score tape again here, like on this plastic part. You want to make sure there's a good seal there so your bits don't come out. And then I'm just going to line that up. And before you shake it, you do want to give it a good press all the way around and make sure that this part in particular is sealed down. And now you can shake around your little goodies. So that part is ready, and all we're going to do is we're going to pop that up. That's optional if you don't want to. You would just glue it down. I'll show you the difference. You can really, I like the dimension it gives when you pop it up. So I'm gonna do that. If you don't want a lot more bulk, you could just use like a piece of cardstock or two, and that would give it the bulk. I have here, it's a thin sheet of foam, and I'm just gonna use that. And I'm going to center it, making sure it's opening the right way. Perfect. And to finish off, we have these pretty half-back jewels from Pink Fresh. And a pretty, I think they're sky blue. And so I've got a couple down here. 1, 2. And 1, 2, 3. tool here. I'm just going to slide them off so they come off easy. We'll put those on. Alright, so that card is finished. We've got one final card here, Celebrate. And you should have, we've got a full-blown panel here, and we're going to cut it down to size after we ink it. So we're going to use those same three colors we've been using, the Stormy Sky, Chip Sapphire, and Fossilized Amber. And then this time I'm going to use blending brushes. So I've got 3 blending brushes, and we're going to work our way from top to bottom. We're going to start with the Fossilized Amber to Stormy Sky to Chip Sapphire, and that's how we're going to get that look. Obviously you can use whatever color combo you want here, but that's what I'm going to do. So we'll get started here on the blending. So we're just going to go about 1/3 of the way down with the yellow, and we'll kind of dark to light. I just re-inked my pad, so it's super inky. And then I'm going to clean that surface up a little bit. And then we're going to move into the Stormy Sky. And we'll do the middle, and then we'll slowly, when we work into that yellow, we'll get that green, which is pretty. Okay, and then I'm going to go into the darker blue, which is Chip Sapphire. And I'm just going to make sure I really cross over that area where they blend together well. And you could always go back in if you wanted to add some more of the lighter, but I kind of like that gradient, so I'm going to call that good. Clean up my surface. Alright, and so spray my hands a little. And then, I mean, there's a lot of ink saturated in that paper, so you may want to let it sit and dry a little bit. I'm going to take my heat tool. And I'm noticing right now that there is almost a line right there, and I don't really like that. So I'm going to go in with some yellow and see if I can maybe a touch more of the stormy sky. Just try to blend circles. I don't know if that's better or not. I'm going to end up cutting it down anyway, so maybe I can get rid of some of, I'm not going to use that side. All right, so we're ready to cut it down. And I cut my piece down to 3 3/8 by 4 5/8. And then I get that nice thick border. If you don't like the eighths on your ruler or trimmer, you could certainly go to 4 5 1/4. I can show you what that would look like. So if we cut to 4 by 5 1/4, you're going to get that. I'm going to trim down to the 3 3/8. So 3 3/8. It didn't emboss well there. Actually, I'm going to trim some of that off. Okay. So 3 3/8. There it is, by 4 5/8. Which is going to be here, but I'm going to cut it at 5. And then I'm going to cut it there, and I'm going to go again. I'm just trying to make sure my gradient is even. So at the end of the day, you need to end up at 4 5/8. And I like that. I still did end up with some of that dark green I don't like, but that's okay. And it really pops once you put it on onto the cream. So I did pop that up as well. So get some foam. All right, I got my backing removed from the foam, and I'm just going to center that onto my white or my cream card base. And then if you want, I did pop up my sentiment, and I've just got it down here. You could put it up top, you could put it off to the side, wherever you want. I'm gonna come right in there, and that's straight. All right, and that finishes that card. All right, that does it for this card class. I hope you enjoyed these cards and kind of playing around with some distressing as watercolors and checking out these new shaker domes. Those are super fun from Spellbinders. Not super new, but new to me. If you're interested in a kit, you can find them on our website. I'll try to post the link below from momentstomilstones.com, and you can search up card kits there. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.